So there are three certifications for Kubernetes. First one is Certified Kubernetes Administrator CKA. Second is Certified Kubernetes Application Developer CKAD. And third is Certified Kubernetes Security, which is CKS. And if you're just starting out in Kubernetes, so whether you are an administrator, architect, tester, or just a complete beginner in Kubernetes, I highly recommend you to begin with Certified Kubernetes Administrator Certification CKA because that will give you the complete picture about Kubernetes. So what all topics are covered in this exam, including topic-wise percentage weightage of the exam, and 35 labs we recommend you to perform in order to learn Docker, Kubernetes, and prepare you for exam so that not only you clear the exam and also understand Kubernetes in depth. We're going to look at all this in today's episode. Welcome to another episode of weekly video series with me, Atul Kumar from team K21Academy, where we take you on a journey from complete beginner, right from microservices, Dockers, to the Kubernetes architecture, installation, troubleshooting, deployment, networking, storage, and prepare you for certification and job so you earn a lot more. So in this episode, I've taken a clip from one of our trainings in which our Docker and Kubernetes expert is talking about what all things you should be preparing and what's included in this exam. So we'll first begin with the exam overview, talking about the percentage-wise weightage of each of these topics, and then what all labs or hands-on lab you should be doing or mapped as per the each topic. Then she will explain who this certification is for or who all should do the certification and who issued this certification, which is Cloud Native Computing Foundation. We'll also look at some of the basics of the exam, including how many questions you get, how long this exam is for, or on what version of Kubernetes this certification is for. She will also cover what all tools are available or what all documents you can look while you are in the exam. We'll also look at what are the environment around you when you're taking the exam or what are your laptop or system requirements in order to take this exam remotely from home. How do you schedule the exam or how can you reschedule or cancel the exam if you need to? And the frequently asked questions about this certification. And she will then go to the topic wise, starting from cluster architecture, install and configure. So what are the objective and what are labs you should be performing in order to learn and do this certification. So topics like architecture, installation, configuration, service and networking, workload and scheduling that consists of 15%, 10% on the storage side, and then final 30% on troubleshooting, which is very important for you as a Kubernetes administrator. You should be knowing all of these intercomponents and how to troubleshoot them. Now, if you want to in future recap this, I'm also going to put this video on our blog, k21academy.com/Kubernetes11, that will have everything you must know in order to get certified on Kubernetes or prepare for this exam on Kubernetes. We'll also have the step-by-step labs that you should be performing in order to not only clear the certification, but also learn both Docker and Kubernetes in detail. So we recommend approximately 39 labs, which are available on k21academy.com/Kubernetes05. So let's see what our Docker and Kubernetes trainer and expert have to say.
With respect to Certified Kubernetes Administrator, these are the 5 areas on which they would test your knowledge. You should know about clusters architecture, how to install, how to configure, how to create a highly available multiple worker node type of cluster. Workloads, how do you schedule, how to create containers, run in a Kubernetes environment, how to schedule them using advanced scheduling techniques. The services, how to do a networking across the containers which are running, how to provide persistency. And the important part, if you see, the highest weightage around is given to the troubleshooting. So troubleshooting comes into picture because we would be the owners of the entire cluster, and if the cluster is not performing or it's not doing as expected, everyone's workloads gets affected. And troubleshooting is one of the major aspects which admin guy has to learn or has to do on a daily basis, the type of work. So what we have done, like most of the topics which are coming in the exam, we try to map to the hands-on activities which we can do on those topics so that we get in-depth understanding about those specific like cluster bring up, setting up networking, how to expose an application. So we have created around, as we showed, around 38 labs, hands-on exercises. The entire roadmap is already drawn, tested as well across various participants. A lot of people have gone through the certification program and have earned the certification. So let's first understand who is the certification for. So when CKA program was created, it was like created by CNCF, to which Google had contributed Kubernetes. They collaborated with Linux Foundation, and they wanted this entire ecosystem of Kubernetes to develop. And that is the reason they started with the certification program. Because if you see, if the certification stands as the key aspect of this particular process, because if you are certified, you are showing that credibility and everyone understand that you have a value in the market. And that is the reason the certification holds a lot of weightage. If you're working as a cloud administrator, if you're working as a DevOps guy, or if you're working as an IT admin guy who is handling the Kubernetes clusters or managing those instances, then this would be a right certification for you people. And if we think about the certification, it is like setting up the entire ecosystem by the CNCF. And if you see, the CNCF is also driving entire stretch of projects, which is called as cloud native architecting. And these days, every application which used to be a monolithic application in the past has like migrating or are planning to migrate towards microservices. And when we talk about microservices, we can't say that we would not be using Kubernetes. It is like a de facto for the microservices environment. So we would be actually getting certified and saying that, yeah, we are the best in handling the microservices environment. We would demonstrate basic things by passing the exam, that I know how to install the entire cluster, how to handle a production level cluster, how to upgrade a cluster, how to restore a cluster if something happens, how to do a standard maintenance, logging, monitoring. All those aspects are to be known to a certified Kubernetes administrator. And these are the areas on which they would test your skills. Earlier exam used to be 3 hours. Now the duration is like shrinked and it is made 2 hours. Why? Because earlier CKA was the only certification and there was no other way for them to have the security handling or the little bit of developer topics. Everything was incorporated into the same certification. And when they came up with the CKAD and CKS, when they have segregated those topics, they have reduced the time frame of this exam, they have reduced the number of questions, plus they have reduced the passing score. Earlier, the passing score used to be 73%, but now it is 66%. The certificate is valid for 3 years and you can take one free retake. They normally test on the latest version of Kubernetes and we are running with version 1.19. Exam would be proctored. You need to have a video camera fit in, you need to have proper audio, you need to share your screen. You can access only your Google Chrome. They expect you to have Chrome. No other web browser can be used apart from Google Chrome. And they would test your settings. They have a link so that they can test your laptop. And if everything is working, they'll give you a green tick, tick, tick. You can do that before the exam itself. And during the entire duration of the exam, someone would be literally sitting and watching you. And if you're like not looking at the camera or your face is not visible, then they take proper actions. So exam is actually proctored very well, I would say. We would be given command line access to the clusters. There would be 4 to 5 different variations of clusters in which you can log in and you can execute your questions. So left-hand side questions would be coming, right-hand side, they have the entire exam platform where you can go ahead and conduct or execute those commands. So you look into the questions, you move into the proper cluster and you have to execute those steps or whatever you think is correct, you have to do that. But in that process, because everyone knows that by hearting the entire skeleton of a YAML manifest file of Kubernetes is not possible for different types of resources. So they allow us to access few of the documentation which is freely available, like blog section of Kubernetes, documentation, the beautiful documentation which they have, and the GitHub link which they have for it. But apart from there, if there are a few other discussion websites which you don't have to access. As soon as you hit something, and you're allowed to open only one tab extra. So you have a tab for your exam, and you can open one more tab. If you open anything excess, then they would take back the question paper. The proctor will warn you, and then they would refresh your page and you will get back the question. If you do that thing repeatedly, then they would cancel the exam. So the test environment has to be clutter-free. You have to have a clean table. The walls have to be clear. The lighting has to be proper. Your face has to be visible in the camera. You can't get up, move around here and there. If you want to keep water, you have to keep a transparent bottle with normal water, no colored stuffs allowed. And there are no noise. No one should be walking across you in your workspace. So make sure, I prefer giving it from home, and things like it should be a calm and quiet place, no noise coming from behind. As I discussed, we should have Chrome, we should have proper internet access, microphone, webcam. These are the things which would be needed for proctoring the exam. You can schedule the exam. Suppose you have bought the voucher, you can schedule the exam once you register for the voucher. There is a validity for the voucher registration as well. Suppose I bought the voucher today, and voucher is valid for 3 months. Then I can enroll or register my voucher in these 3 months. And from the day I register my voucher, I get 12 months for my exam registration. But you have to register for exam before the 12 months expiry. Your final exam appearing date should be within that 12 months. You have to choose the proper code. You have to, in case you want to cancel your exam or reschedule your exam, you have to do whatever you want. Exact 24 hours before the starting time of your exam, whatever you have to take whatever action you want. In case you don't do that and you don't show up for the exam, then your exam fee will not be refunded, and you will have to create a Linux Foundation credentials, and there is the one portal allocated for you where you can go and do the rescheduling, look at your certificates. Everything would be available in that particular portal itself. Frequently people ask, like, who should do CKA? What is exactly CKA? What is CKA certification? So they have a frequently accessed asked questions link as well. How much should I score? In how many days my exam results would be out? All those questions are answered in the link in the CNCF website. So let's break the entire topic into multiple type of lab exercises we can think of. Like if you say that I want to learn about the cluster architecture, the installation, the role-based access to a cluster, how to manage a highly available cluster, how to do an upgrade, then we normally map that to hands-on exercises. Like we will teach you how to provision or configure a 3-node cluster. So you should have that knowledge, how to integrate a networking component into that, how to upgrade your cluster, how to take a backup of your cluster, how to roll back and all. So these are the things which we need to understand if we are learning about the architecture, learning about the tool like Kuberium, which can help us establish or install or create the entire cluster. So this is a snapshot of our website, the web portal, where you can access the courses, and we map everything with the activity guide so that you can learn in-depth thing by doing the hands-on exercise, how you do it in the exam. So the second topic is about the networking and the services. So because we don't have bots IP address persistent across reboots, we introduce a new component in Kubernetes called the services. We cover different types of services like cluster IP, node port, and load balancer, and we do cover about ingress controller as well. So these helps us in exposing the application within the cluster or outside the cluster. So we help you deploy the application and then expose the application within the cluster and understand how the internet working happens across different pod-to-pod communication, pod-to-service communication, inter-node communication and all. The next topic would be workload and scheduling. So if you know how to run your application, you should know how to perform updates on your application. You should know how to roll back your application. You should know how to have a self-healing type of application. You should understand how much of resources your pod should ask for. So we have topics associated to that, very concentrated on those actions which are expected in the exam. We let you deploy horizontal pod autoscaler, do the scheduling, learn advanced scheduling techniques like node affinity, anti-affinity, taint intolerance, have to set up the security context within the container level. And only not that, rather set up the entire stack, a multi-container stack, so that you get a feel of it. How do a multi-container application work on the cluster when it is deployed? The next topic would be on the storage, because we are talking about stateful applications and we are talking about the application which needs to keep their data persistent across reboots or deletion and recreation. We have component or an object called as persistent volume and persistent volume claim, which gives persistency to the applications. We let you understand how to have a NFS type of storage mounting, then do a dynamic provisioning on any of the cloud storages, like we pick up Azure Cloud Storage, the block storage, and we show you how to do a dynamic provisioning as well. So there are different ways of doing it, and this is where we cover about the stateful sets application as well. So stateful set is a type of a controller which helps us deploy databases. A lot of people were asking about the database applications, right? So databases these days are running on Kubernetes with the help of these sort of storage backends. Plus, they need a controller which has the intelligence of setting up the master and the safe replicas. The last and important topic would be troubleshooting. So from exam point of view, you need to understand what would happen when one of the node fails. You need to understand what would happen if the networking component fails. You need to understand if an application is not performing as expected, where do I go and look for the log? How do I set up the entire monitoring and the logging stack on my cluster? So we cover the ELK stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana with FileBeat. Teach you how to deploy, look into the logs, analyze the logs. If one of the components inside a pod is failing, how do we bring that back? If there is an issue with the image, or if there is a registry connection issues, how do we fix that? So these would be there because they would simulate these stuffs in the exam, and they expect you to recover back that particular cluster back into action. So like this flow has to be there. You need to understand each component's functionality and how to debug them, how to look for logs of a cluster, how to look for the logs for an application, and how to identify what exactly is not working. It could be the Docker not working, it could be the kubelet not working, it could be a Kube API server not responding. So each of the components would be taught, and each of the components debugging and troubleshooting would be covered.
Well, that was our Docker and Kubernetes certified trainer and expert, explaining everything you must be knowing about this certification exam and what is the exam-wise percentage weightage of these topics and what all hands-on lab you must perform in order to understand and do this certification. Now, as I said at the start, I've put down everything on about this certification, including some of the basic concepts that you should be knowing, things like microservices, Docker, containers, Docker and its networking, storage, etc. There's a 12-week roadmap where we go from complete beginner, including installing and configuring Kubernetes clusters or a 3-node clusters and deploying applications and doing end-to-end deployment load balancers and shared storage, advanced networking like ingress controllers or dynamic storage provisioning, doing the project work and the certification exam practice questions, multiple exam practice questions so that you understand what to expect in the exam, as well as the project work that will tell you what actually are the real-time implementations of Docker and Kubernetes. And hundreds of our students have gone through this comprehensive 12-week program and have got results, including the latest exam pattern that was introduced on 1st of September 2020. And here are some of the examples like Sachin or Lavanya and many more like them who have done this certification on the new pattern. So if you want to get results like them or learn Docker and Kubernetes from beginners right way to an expert level, then I have a comprehensive step-by-step training program that includes 16 modules, 60 plus lessons, 39 hands-on lab, including exam preparation, and the most important part is 1 year on-job support. If you're interested in this program, then I would highly recommend you to attend a free class that I do for complete beginners, where we cover why you should learn Docker and Kubernetes, what is Docker and Docker containers, architecture of Docker, networking, storage, images, and then we'll talk about Kubernetes, including architecture and pods. So if you're interested and a beginner, then I'll highly recommend you to attend this free class, which is k21academy.com/Kubernetes02. Enter your name and email address so you can attend this free class. Now, if you like today's episode on Certified Kubernetes Administrator certification, and if you think it will help others, then don't forget to share it with your colleagues. If you're watching this on YouTube or other social channel, then like and subscribe so that you get notified when we release the next video. And if you're watching this video anywhere outside our blog, then make sure you also visit k21academy.com/Kubernetes11. So if anything changes since I recorded this video, I'll be updating on this blog. So k21academy.com/Kubernetes11. With that, this is Atul from team K21 Academy, and I'll see you next week with another episode on Docker and Kubernetes. Till then, take care.